Hello, and welcome to this edition of Secure Networks, the Endace Packet Forensic Files, with your host, Michael Morris. This episode's very special guest is Taran Singh, Product Management from Keysight Technologies. Taran, welcome. Thank you for joining. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Michael, thanks for inviting me on. Between my hiking, walking, classic cars, I run the product management practice at Keysight, which is a company that focuses on bringing a lot of products first to market. And in our domain, we are focused on everything to do with network visibility from a zero trust architecture standpoint. So thanks, and great to be invited onto the show.
I've known you for a number of years, as you know, and so it's really great to hear from your insights. And you hit something in your intro that I wanted to dig into. Hearing a lot in the industry about network observability. So what does that mean to you? And talk to us a little bit about the various data, the sources that make up that concept of network observability.
So network observability, first think network monitoring, right? Okay. In any size network, you're going to have logs, metrics, traces, and alerts. And often they're coming from everywhere in the network: servers, firewalls, IPSs, applications, different stacks. And a lot of this has been in the market, in the industry for better part of 20 years, right? So observability is trying to distinguish itself from network monitoring because it is trying to take all of that information together, firstly, add more to it, and I can give you some examples of that. Oftentimes, when you're looking to do quality of service, you might do real user monitoring. You may also do some synthetic traffic simulations. You may also want to see what's inside encrypted flow, so partial or full decryption. And oftentimes, in the context of network security or security operations, you're very concerned about east-west traffic threats moving laterally, right? And so here you have a lot of the volume of data that comes from every network, be it on-premise, edge of the network, your SaaS platforms. Imagine all of this are places and things that are basically comprising of the sources of data, right? And so observability takes all of this and more, and it's not done, right? It tries to then add more to it. So, for example, you can imagine thread feeds that come in from the web, dark web IP addresses, malicious email addresses, and domains known to do spam and ransomware attacks. All of these to come together as a solution to provide, a high-level view of your network, especially in the context of zero trust architecture, which is to say, trust no one and verify everything, right? So it's a relatively large landscape of a definition, but a simplified way to look at it is really to take data, enrich it, get some analytics, and act on it.
It does encompass a lot, right? And a lot of people have really kind of defocused on, as you described initially, network monitoring, right? It's because it's gotten a lot more complex. So why do many organizations struggle with having clear visibility to what's going on their networks? Is it just they stop paying attention to the network?
So we could go anywhere with this one, Michael. Okay, let's focus on just the zero trust framework that's been developed, right? Imagine it has users, it has networks, it has workloads, it has devices, and of course, it has all kinds of data. And data could be data at rest, it could be data in motion, right? And one of the challenges of that is, first of all, it is like being on a racetrack. There are a lot of different things that IT organizations have to contend with: applications, users, services, experience. And now you are deploying a lot of complex tools to manage your knock and solve. And it hasn't gotten any easier. So that's one of the reasons. The network IT stack is actually rather complex at this point. And that's one of the very simple reasons for the lack of visibility. The second reason is you have a number of tools like NDR, SIEMs, logs that really struggle to keep up with data. And imagine if you have this complexity of an IT stack, you have a variety of different workloads, users, data at rest, data in motion. The challenge is, where do organizations focus their energies in terms of knowing what's happening, being able to understand the risk, being able to decide they want to take that risk in terms of plugging the holes, and really contending with budget, right? How much of everything can I really address? So I think the challenges for organizations in visibility is being able to have a fine balance of understanding what you're up against, how secure you feel, and how much risk you really want to take when not plugging in certain things.
No, that's a great point. And I hear from CISOs often the keyword resiliency too, of, what levels of resilience and redundancy do I want to build into my infrastructure and my monitoring infrastructure, right?
Yeah.
So network observability often generates large volumes of data, just like you referred to there, that many tools, as you know, simply can't handle. How does proper network visibility address the challenge of information overload and provide effective filtering mechanisms to prioritize actionable insights for security teams?
Okay, so if you first quantify the volume of data, right? So when we're looking at doing logs, there's millions and millions of events per second. And then when you're looking at trying to capture actual things that happen in your network, like lateral movement of perhaps threats, first, you can't tap everything in the network. You can't take all the packets that you have from a production network and make copies of it for forensic analysis. So the biggest advantage of introducing network visibility, into the zero trust architecture is to actually tame the volume of data first, understand where you need to have access to all the vantage points in your network, filter for the right traffic that goes to the right set of forensic tools or other tools that you have in your stack, and actually be able to scale up and down. So for example, if you have capabilities that are in the 1 to 10 gigabit networking stack, and you're looking to move to 25 gigabit and 100, but you've already upgraded the network segment side to 2500, now you have a mismatch of capability and performance, right? So network visibility is that layer in workloads, users, and network that allows you to actually normalize how you respond to threats with the investments you've made, while you're contending with addressing the volume of data that comes in from your network. So at a high level, visibility and analytics, that is one of the pillars of zero trust, is often something that may be a second tier thought because you're still contending with how to deploy all the zero trust technologies. But I contend that you need to think about that up front, because this may help you decide to do certain things differently from the get-go.
No, that's a great point. Really thinking a few steps down the road before implementation is key, right? And really some of that planning. One of the things you hit on there is, scalability is crucial, especially for large enterprises and large enterprises with hybrid cloud infrastructures. So how does, Keysight and some of the solutions you work with really ensure scalability without compromising on performance, particularly with dealing with networks that are undergoing rapid growth or high fluctuations in traffic?
So Keysight's visibility solutions are deployed in very many markets for the last 15 years. So we've had a lot of experience on the nature of the business of financial, industrial, retail, federal, and large service providers. And you can imagine reliability is sort of paramount to their operations, right? And so the way we've addressed some of the requirements over time is twofold. One is we build purpose-built platforms, primarily centered around software-built architectures, to actually address specific market needs. So, for example, high-frequency trading analytics, we have a stack for that just focuses on that. For stacks where you're looking to create flow from all the traffic that's on your network, but only create metadata for the data in the network, we have a software stack for that. So we've taken a software first approach in being able to kind of scale, I'll say, per stack, and then put it together into our platforms, be it virtual in the cloud or on premise in our products for that network, in order to actually scale out. So scaling out for me goes hand in hand with reliability, and that's sort of the approach we've taken as we've built the products over time.
No, that's a great point, and I do know the importance of the combination of both physical infrastructure as well as software, really to help define the use cases. So network observability is rapidly becoming more critical with the fast pace and continuous security risk threat from threat actors. So how does having historical look back capability, like working with Endace, really help security teams in their incident response and investigation processes?
Okay, so something that happened recently, right, Michael? The breach that we don't know all of the details as to sort of the main vector for how it happened, but the Change Healthcare that just happened, and I believe the Alpha V group has taken the ransomware north of 22 million, one of the largest ones ever, that has been paid for basically as hostage, right? And so they claim to have taken 6 terabytes of data, impacted not only the partner networks, right? Partner networks of Change Healthcare, including United Health, and payment processing, and also patients and hospitals, right? So why I bring this up in the context of observability is that what you're going to do for your cybersecurity stack, you have to make some assumptions that you can be hacked, you will be hacked. So what are you prepared to do? How quickly are you able to respond? Do you have the skills on hand? Do you have the technologies in your networks to respond quickly? Can you shut some things down quickly? Can you capture the traffic? Can you go back to the Endace Technologies and bring all of that packets back and look at what happened, what transpired, what triggered it? So I think it's very critical to be able to have these answers. And to have these answers, you need the capabilities of being able to go back in time to get some of that network data, right? Now, we can flip it and say, would logs have been, are logs enough, as an example? And the short answer is no, because oftentimes threat actors can manipulate what it looks like in the log written to disk. What you cannot change is the ground truth that's on the network, right? So packets that we would basically process, filter, and send over to Endace Technologies, you cannot change that. That's very forensics ready to be analyzed. So long way to describe it is, I think it's critical. And I think if you make visibility and analytics a key tenet of your zero trust architecture and mindset, while you're putting in identity, privileged access, and securing it with MFA, all of those things that are essentially table stakes at this point, I think you'll have a better sense of how quickly you can respond to some of these events that invariably will happen to you.
No, that's an excellent point. And you said it earlier when you described zero trust. It's, never trust, always verify. And if you don't have the packet evidence that you can provide, you just don't have a way to verify everything that's happening on your network. So I think you nailed it there. Taran, one of the things I always like to ask our expert guests that join our podcast series is put on your prognosticator hat for a little bit and, kind of look out 6 to 18 months. And I know that's an eternity in the cybersecurity world. Okay. But what's one thing you'd really highlight or point out to our listeners to really think about or plan for over the next 6 to 12 months in the ever-shifting battle for network and cybersecurity?
Maybe I'll do 2 things instead of 1, Michael. How about
All right,
that?
I like it. Double.
Okay. So I think we used to, over the last, I'd say, 10 years, take network and networking stacks for granted. I think that was a well understood thing. Yes, networks are always there. They're always on. Applications and services, those are important. They still are, clearly. But networks have become very agile. Now you can work from anywhere. So they're extremely valuable. So the first thing I would think is important to understand is treat it like an asset, don't treat it like an expense. And that mindset alone can help you actually prepare as to how you think about deploying your networks, how deploying it and securing it.
Yeah.
The second thing is I feel like cybersecurity is turning a corner, but also cyber attacks are going to be more frequent. They may be more brazen. They may be more adaptive with the use of manipulative AI. And so I think, unfortunately, with my crystal ball, it tells me that it's not going to get any easier for customers actually to defend their networks, their applications, their users, their brand. So my takeaway is to pay attention to the network, be prepared, focus on visibility and analytics, be prepared with all the tools you have at your disposal so that you can answer the questions. What's the plan? Can I quickly respond if something happens? Can I shut things down? Do I have a very detailed DNR plan? And if you're able to get to 80% of that, I feel like you're ahead of 90% of businesses in terms of preparedness for something in the event of a breach.
No, I completely agree with your crystal ball there. And if we both had a perfect crystal ball, we'd probably both be retired on a beach somewhere. But the one thing I am in complete agreement on is the sophistication of attacks is only getting more complex, right? With AI, you mentioned it's going to be multi-level, longer dwell times because they're going to find ways to hide and then revive and do more reconnaissance. So I think that's where the complexity is going to lie, and I think that's going to be tied with more zero-day attacks as well, right? Because of the fact their actors are going to find backdoors in, and that's going to continue. So, Taran, well, I thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to share your insights in how to better secure networks. We'd ask our listeners to tune in next time for another edition of the Endace Packet Forensic Files. For more information about Endace's network packet capture platform and our integrations with our Fusion technology partners like Keysight, please go to endace.com. Taran, again, thanks for taking the time, and certainly all the best.
Thank you, Michael. Pleasure being on. Enjoyed the conversation. And keep doing what you're doing, Michael. Cheers.
All right. Thanks again, Taran.